watch, but I know who Bob is.
I'm wondering though, is it more likely that the Bachelorette, like they get married stage-wise, they get married, whereas the Bachelor is just like, I enjoy spending time with all these
True.
people. Okay, are we good?
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
Ooh, someone says I hear humans. Great.
Well, then they learned a lot,
I
as much as
know.
I've been learning.
Stacey will appreciate it. Okay. All right.
Wow.
Oh, let me see. Can I see me? So, hi. We're back. We're here. It's awesome. So, welcome to Show and Tell, our first episode. It is going great. I love it. So today we're going to talk. We've got Show and Tell, and it's the first episode. What we're talking about is anything that is anything that I find weird and interesting, and I find a lot of things in the world weird and interesting, or if my guest finds it weird and interesting. So today my guest is Johnny. Johnny is a playwright. He is the, I'm going to get this right, director of artistic development at the Tank. He's a bon vivant and a chicken father. So, Johnny, say hello to the people.
Hi, thanks for having me. I will say I am not the chicken father. I don't know if you follow, well, I guess our next doors would be different, because we do not live in the same neighborhood. But there has recently been, I guess that like there are chickens that occasionally like escape from wherever they live and go to St. Nicholas Park. And I do want to acknowledge now that I'm not the father of any of those chickens.
Okay.
I'm the father to a stuffed chicken. So if you see like a chicken around town, like don't worry, it's not my chicken.
So I'm sorry. I didn't want to make it sound like you were like a deadbeat chicken dad.
You never know. You never know. I mean, the topic of our conversation today. You never know. You never know.
Never know. So the topic of our conversation today is actually the 2000. I'm going to see if I can put this in the chat. The 2015 Rolling Stone interview that Terrance Howards did. It came out. I actually just put it in the chat because I'm on top of things today. That's not true. It came out in September 14th, 2015. It was basically around the opening, the start of Empire. You know, and Empire was this really huge hit when it started, as are most things that we do does. Big hits when they start, and it just kind of evolves into other things. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So Rolling Stone sent Eric Hedegaard, who is a veteran journalist, to talk to Terrance Howards. And I'm pretty sure when they sent him out, they were just like, oh, this is just going to be just a regular old event, like a regular old talky thing. You know, we just want to get like some background on Terrance so that we can really promote this show, and it's going to be great. But I feel like no one had ever met or spoken to in depth Terrance Howards before this happened. Because if they had, they might have been prepared for what they saw.
It's like Hustle and Flow never happened, really. Like it's like they just completely dropped that ball.
Exactly.
And
well,
didn't think.
Because Hustle and Flow happened, but then after that, he'd also done Crash, and he'd also done Iron Man before he was replaced by Don Cheadle. We can get into all that later. But let's talk a little bit about the actual article. So Eric Hedegaard, to his credit, he has some snark in that article. So he goes in, he's just like, yes, there is Terrance Howards in his silk top and his scarf, and he's looking into a mirror, and he's talking about how there are 432 faces of him, which in that day might have been the 6-year-old. So at the same time, his wife at the time, who is currently his fiance, Mira Pak, who is a restaurateur. Get a picture of Mira because she's lovely. She's actually quite pretty. Mira Pak is there, and she's cutting out these shapes, these beautiful shapes, which we'll see a little bit later. And she, throughout this conversation, he brings up quite a few things. How he grew up, how he met Mira, and especially the thing that I think really tripped everything off, Terryology. Now, Terryology. Let's actually, before we get into Terryology, let's look at the physical embodiment of it. Um,
Yes.
there's Mira there. Um, Mira actually says in the article about how she met Terrance. She was at a restaurant with her former boss, and he walked up to the table and was like, "You're beautiful," and she was just like, "Yeah, this is it." And then they got married like 3 days later. It's just like, so we can see the level of judgment that's happening here. As you these pictures there, actually, let me see. I'm gonna point this way and see what happens because I'm not sure which way I'm going. It's that way. It's that way. Yes, yeah, it's that way. So there are some beautiful pictures of these things that they're cutting out. They're full of like wire and copper, and there is this woman who is a restaurateur who owns restaurants, and a man who is like a former Academy Award nominee cutting these things out all day, all day while watching their baby. Um, so why would he do this? Why would he do this? So I think there's some more pictures of them. They're actually gorgeous. So there's 4 pictures that I have. If you go onto his Twitter page, and you go really deep back around the time that the article came back, he has a video of them in the light, catching the light. They almost look like and let me date myself. They almost look like CDs that they've cut
Oh
out and
yeah.
put together. Yes.
Hmm.
Um, I have a surprise for you at the end, Johnny. I'm not going to
Oh
tell you now.
wow. Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Well, I mean, I hope it's a CD now. I hope it's a cassette tape. If I'm
It's a cassette tape of all of the songs that I think about when I think of you. It's a mix.
That is perfect. That is perfect. It's perfect. I will have so many places to play it.
Exactly. Exactly. Let me just drag that out. All right. So before we get into why these things exist, Johnny, do you have any thoughts before we get deep into Terryology? Knowing full well that I failed algebra twice. So this is gonna be exciting conversation.
Well, I think for me, Terryology is really about how 1 × 1 = 2. Like that's like foundational to Terryology. And I don't get how 1 × 1 = 2, but I do know that I'm the last generation that won't get it. So I trust that like the children now have all confirmed that 1 × 1 = 2. But I do think that that's just so important too, and it's I mean like it's just so much. There's
It is
so much there.
it is so much there. So we can actually put his theory up. He posted his theory. So it should be Terry theory. He posted his theory on Twitter, where for a while, and I think he probably still does, he argued with a bunch of people about 1 × 1 = 2. According to Terry, as Terrance sometimes calls himself, um, if one 1 × 1 = 1, then one has no value. Except even I, who once again failed algebra twice, can tell you 1 × 1 basically tells you what's happening. One time equals that one. But on his theory, which he's got here, and also he's got he has logic that he's typed these things out. He's typed them out. So there's Terryology 1 and 2. He's typed them out and he's explained to you why this is. Because the square root of 2 is not 1, even though it should be, even though 2. And I'm going to be honest, I get lost. I get lost.
I mean, it's math. It's real math.
It's real math.
It's real. If you were gonna name something, if we were gonna get Karenology, what would it be?
Oh God, if you were Karen, it would just be like the number 56 and 32, just those 2 numbers like over and over again, because that's all I know. So I just barely made it alive. I'm really surprised that when I balance my checkbook and everything comes out right. And I'm just like, oh great, this is how much I spent, and this is how much I got. Awesome. So kudos to him for like thinking that deeply. Now, according to Terrance, he was at Pace University and is like 3 credits from graduating. He was going for his chemical engineering degree, and he was gonna graduate, but he got into an argument about 1 × 1 = 2, and that argument meant that he left. He left Pace. He was just like, I'm not doing this. So I think for me, why this is interesting is how much Terrance Howard has like made his own story. So even though he says he went to Pace University, there are no records that he went there. And that program, that degree actually shut down, I think in like 989 or something like that, like maybe 93, something like that. It shut down soon after he would have left. So there's no way to know if he actually got that, if he was so close to that degree. Um, he very much he writes his own history. And what I found really interesting about this article is one, it's from September of 2015. Earlier that year, in June of that year, he who will not be named strolled his chubby little ass, didn't stroll because he don't walk. His ass glided down that escalator and basically made us all part of his reality for the past 4 years. And that is what happened. This is what happens here. Terrance Howard writes his own reality. And because he writes it so well, you're never sure what's true and what isn't. And there's often like bits of truth in it, but there's also just a lot of things that he's like off on. So, um, this is not like generally when we do these, it'll either be my topic or it'll be the guest topic. This is not Johnny's topics. That's why he's just like, he's like,
But
where is this
you
going?
know, it's a topic that has become more and more important to me as every day goes by, starting in 2015, honestly, and until now. Every day it becomes more relevant and closer to me.
Well, I mean, I think so. If you Terrance Howard was born in '69. He grew up in he was born in Chicago, but they moved to Cleveland. And he was brought up. His mother was very young when she had him. Her their He and his father and his mother were very very young when they got together. They were both mixed, black and white. They're both biracial. So part of their not yet. Hold it. um, so they're both biracial, and they moved to Cleveland when they moved back to Cleveland because that's where the family was originally from. The parents were originally from. The mother was really missing family. So one of the big things in Terrance's life, and one of the first places that really sticks out about perception, is the story that he tells about his father. So in 71, I'm going to double check my figures on this. Just, yep, December 21st, 1971. According to Terrance Howard, who was 2 or 3 at the time, and clearly his memory was impeccable.
Isn't your don't I remember everything from when I was two.
I
That's
remember all of it. Most of my journals are I've typed them out and I have
mhm.
them on my bookcase.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
because when you're two, you learn how to use a typewriter, which is what I'm assuming Terrence had already done.
you after a nice, some a little bit of Sesame
Mm.
Street, you just sit down and journal it.
Yeah.
So
Some Sesame Street, some baby wine, wine for babies, and then you just
exactly,
yeah.
it's fermented mother's milk. So he sits there. He claims that he and his family had gone to Higbee's on the 10th floor in Cleveland. Higbee's was a shopping mall, and they were going to see Santa. And ahead of them was another family, was a white family. And according to Terrance, and I think this is where the stories don't diverge, but his mother had been sitting to the side because she was pregnant at the time. He was there with his 2 brothers and his mother and his father. And his father was still standing in line. Um, then when it was time, like his father called his mother over, and the white family, the father of the white family, Mr. Fitzpatrick, I believe, um, complained that they were skipping ahead. So the 2 men got into an argument. This is where things get crazy as to who did what. So according to some stories, um, Fitzpatrick grabbed Tyrone Howard. We can actually show his picture now. He looks very like it's funny because I showed like Jenna pulled up the picture and she's like, "Oh, why was he being arrested?" But it's actually his dad. Uh, he grabs him, and according to the story, he's grabbed. There's a fight somewhere. Either a knife or a nail file is found, and the father, like Tyrone Howard, stabs him in the thigh and in the leg, and like ends up, bleeding out. According to Tyrone Howard, he tried to stop the bleeding, and then someone told him to run, and so he ran. But he did eventually turn himself in. Mr. Fitzpatrick died, and there was a trial. So this is him. This is him. I keep forgetting it's on this side, not this side. This is him being arrested by the police. There's a whole trial. He's actually in prison for about 11 months and then released for on good behavior. He had no record. He'd not done anything, didn't have a lot of problems. Now, the interesting thing is, and it's also in the article, when Terrance Howard talks about his dad, he talks about him saying like, "Oh, I want to quote this because it was special."
With the notes, with the notes.
Yes. I told you, type A. Thank you. My daddy taught me never take the vertebrae out of your back or the base out of your throat. I ain't raising sheep. I raised men. Stay a man. But being a man comes with a curse because it's not not a society made for men to flourish anymore. Everything is androgynous, you know. The more successful men are now the effeminate.
So true in 1969. I mean, come on. I mean,
Right. That's totally the vibe of the 70s.
it's
It's totally the vibe of 70s Cleveland. Totally the vibe.
oh
Um,
gosh. Ugh.
but so it's interesting that he says this in the article. The first time that Terrance tells this story is on Oprah, after like the crashes happen, and he tells the story on Oprah, and he talks about like it being a racial thing, and his father having a knife and whatever, and then later the Cleveland Plain dealer asks Tyrone Howard about it, and he's like, "That's not what happened at all. That's not what happened." He's like, Oprah wanted a sob story. He gave it to her, and I was the meal. He said it was not a racial thing. It was just two men doing stupid things. And there's actually other articles of where Tyrone Howard basically says he's not that kind of man. He is not the kind of man that would fight, just like start a fight or tell you to go get into a fight. There's a New York Times article because this slaying that happened is called the Santa line slaying. It was national news. There's an article on it in the New York Times. I went to look at it, and we're not going to talk about how the New York Times writes about two different racially different men in 1971. We're going to skip over that part. They're very unbiased writing, but
We're also going to skip over the way that apparently every slang used to get its own special name. Um,
exactly.
like the Santa line slang. Like that is iconic.
Forget it. What are we gonna call it? Santa line slang. That's it. That's the one. Oh, I can't see anything in the chat. Sorry, I'm just gonna redo my chat because I can't see anything. And if anyone's asking questions, I can't see it. Johnny, are you reading the chat?
I don't understand how the chat works. We were talking about this because you've got gold stars and I don't in the
Oh, I
chat.
bought
So
those. I bought.
I feel lost in the chat in a way. But maybe I am, but maybe I'm not. It's hard for me to tell.
I mean, I'm gonna close it in case someone asks a question. We're doing great on time though. I just feel like everybody should know. Great. Here we are. And thank you, because I can't see anything. I don't know what happened there. Awesome. Anywho, so in the article, Tyrone's wife, Terrance's mother, is like, yeah, he doesn't start fights. He would never start a fight. If someone started a fight with him, he would back it up. But like those words that that Terrance Howard says about his dad, not likely. Not likely. No. So he's very much about creating his own reality. And I think the thing is that I think there's a point where he creates his reality, but then he forgets that he created it and it just becomes real. Like just how he broke into Hollywood, which is in the article as well, about him with his fake resume. And then suddenly now that resume is real. Like, yeah, he was in all of these great shows and now it doesn't really matter because now he's where he wants to be. Um, this is great. Questions, Johnny? I have more. I still have a surprise for you.
I'm thinking a lot about also the Bell's palsy incident where he taught himself how to move his face again, but by himself. Like no medical help whatsoever,
Tell the
no
people, Johnny.
knowledge
Tell
of
the people.
stretches. Just like kind of like, I mean, like essentially like this one side of his face got paralyzed, and then he was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna I'm just gonna emote all the time, and that is what I need, not a doctor.
I'm just gonna
I just
wire to the house. Just tickle
yeah.
to the face.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he was shocking himself. He was giving himself the electric shock therapy, and it's like, I think it answers a lot of questions also. But it's just one of these fascinating moments of like, oh wow, like this is a tale. This is a tale.
It's all a tale. I mean, even in the article, he and Mira are there and they're cutting out these shapes daily and they're talking about how they're in love. And a month later, a month after the journalist is there, they're divorced. She'd already asked, they're supposed to be separated. According to what she told the court, they're not even together anymore. So everything is a tale, everything. And you're never quite sure what is true and what isn't. He married two of his wives twice, which honestly, the first one I get. And I've said this before. The first one, she was like, all right, maybe he reformed himself, and I can do this again. The second one, she was good. She was like, I only do this one time. But Mira knew better. Mira had seen two other women go into this and was still like, they're engaged right now. I believe they're still engaged.
Wait, they're engaged again?
They are engaged again. Somehow or another, Terrance Howard talks these women into two times marrying him. I don't know what is happening, what he's saying to them. But yes.
I see. I mean, this is a question, but obviously not for you. I mean, this is a question for the universe. Like, how does how? Wow, that is, But I mean, like, I'm trying so hard to think of a way to spin this so it is not just bad. Maybe they like baby wipes. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is.
I
But
mean,
that's wow.
I find it interesting because she says in the article he does nothing. He's selfish. He doesn't cook. He doesn't clean. He doesn't help with the baby. He does nothing. I'm like, you have these things written down. You told them to an absolute stranger when he walked out of the room.
He's
And
not a
then,
vampire anymore.
no, he's not even an
He
empire
doesn't even
anymore.
have a show.
Let's talk about the fact that when this where this article happens, they're in a penthouse apartment in Chicago, and he talks about looking out the window and seeing the river, which means you're in a really nice part of Chicago.
Hmm.
They're in a penthouse, and he's just like, "Oh, all of my money is tied up in this this thing with my ex, but we're gonna buy a place in the suburbs of Winnetka, and my wife Mira is covering the cost of this." And I'm like, I don't know if you're really using your money to the best of your ability here, if you're in this penthouse when you could be saving that money and just moving to the suburbs. Just a thought. Just a thought. I don't know. Um,
If you were Terrence Howard's accountant, what would your advice be? What do you think you would want to pass along?
I think you know what I would just really just boost my fees, my personal fees, and just be like, no, no, this is what I need. This is what you need to live on, and this is what I need to make it happen. And I don't. It's not like he's gonna check. Clearly, he's not gonna check.
No, he's not. No.
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 Um.
He's like, what is a 1099? Like 1099 that equals 11. Like I don't understand.
Now, just making sure that because I'm trying not to stress. Yes, I said I had a surprise for you. Um,
Oh.
yes, I'm really interested in this. I've been interested in this topic ever since I read about it. And I thought it was really it's interesting because like first there's the article, but then there's like all the reaction articles about 10 craziest things he said. This is really weird. But no one all they're really doing is just restating the article over and over again. And you would have thought, and he even said, after I make enough money, I'm just gonna retire because I'm tired of pretending. So technically he's sort of retired, but he now has he has a website. Yes, he's a website to tell you more about Terryology.
Is
So
it
I don't
like
know.
Goop It for math?
It's so it's Terryology seems to have morphed over the past 5-6 years.
Oh
So
wow.
this is this is the big image on when you come to the website. That's the image that you see. But then underneath, I don't know if we can show that one. If
Ooh.
you can't, you don't worry about it. Underneath is he's all about this thing called the linchpin now. And the linchpin is like where bubbles, oh there it is. The bubbles come together, like he's like six bubbles come together, and when they come together, this is the linchpin. And so this is the video. I don't know how well it's going to play. If it doesn't play, it's not that big a deal. There's a video that he has about the linchpin. um ooh, yeah, that's okay. All right, we weren't sure if we could hear the audio on it, so it's okay if we can't, because as all conspiracy, because honestly, let's just be honest, that this is what it is. All conspiracy videos are way too long, and these are like 20 minutes.
Far
So
too far too long.
I don't know why your conspiracy always has to be long. Like, why can't you figure out a way to be succinct in telling me that the world is messed up? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't. And I love me conspiracy theories. I especially love me some Black conspiracy theories. And if it wasn't so detrimental, I would be straight up down to listen to a whole lot of Hotep stuff. But
Well,
oh,
I go so one of my I'm like ooh, I'm about to say something to get me in trouble. One of my uncles for a very long time, or not for a very long time, is still an artist, but for a while was like making art. I think when he was like much younger, was making art that would like go on t-shirts. But so we did have a t-shirt at one point where it was like a Malcolm X Africa head, like like the t-shirt where it's like Africa, just like all of, because Africa is just one thing, obviously.
obviously, yes, yes.
But then like it's also Malcolm X's head, and then like there's all sorts of, that's a story that's okay. Everyone should forget about that. Well, yes, there are lots of, and then yes, yeah.
I will not
I
forget that.
went through my own Hotep phase, but I decided to tell about someone else's instead.
Oh,
Um,
we will be discussing your Hotep phase. It is
oh sure,
happening. Totally gonna happen. Yes, there is
it's
a rambling
Kwanzaa
part of
related. It's Kwanzaa related.
ooh, it just gets better. It gets better. So yes, there is a rambling part to logic. For some reason, their logic always rambles along. But in that video, it's talking about the linchpin, and that video is him proving that gravity is an effect, not a cause. An effect of what? We don't really know. We don't know. But he uses the demonstration that they use, the way that they put together the whole model is through Blender. And then he uses Blender. He uses Blender, which if you don't know, Blender is an animating, it's an animation, freeware animation uh uh program. So
Scientific freeware animation program.
scientific, yes. NASA uses it for all of its work. But they're using it to show like this bubble, and I'm just like, I don't know what's happening here. But he's like, when he talks about these things, he's like every senior like philosophy major talking to a freshman girl, like, oh yes, you don't get it because thank you so much for that's the link to the website if anyone wants to go. It is very much worth the watch. Also, if you need a break from all of the logic that he's putting down, he also has some music on the website that he's singing along to. So if you just need a moment to like
Singing
take in,
along to,
he's singing.
that is one of the cruelest things. Like Amy Klobuchar has been taken an upset in terms of the shadiest things that somebody said. Singing along to, he was on a music television show and yet he is singing along to the tracks.
I guess it is his song and he's singing it. So he's, yes, not singing, it's his song, he's singing it.
He might be singing along. I mean, I believe you. I'm not saying you're wrong.
I just, you know what, Terrance wants to do all the things, and who am I to say he's wrong? Um, but yes, he also has if you want to go, he has 400 followers on his Instagram for Terry's linchpins. Um, and you can see more of him. He just had a contest for all of the people who he knows they're just going to change the world, and they can come together and show how they're using the linchpin to make flying machines, which all just look like drones. If you're going to be quite honest, they all just look like drones. So it's morphed over the time. He's not just let it die. It's morphed and become something bigger and more. And so I'm gonna say that I'm fascinated by the fact that he is writing this. He is truly a Renaissance man.
Yep.
He's writing his own story because it's rare for the world to let a black man write his own story. And you can call him crazy if you want, um but I don't necessarily call him crazy. I wouldn't necessarily say he's crazy, because to call one crazy is just to say that you don't believe in the norms that the world puts in front of you. Now, is he an asshole? Quite likely. He beats on women, he beats on random people.
Lots of other problems.
Yeah,
Lots of problems.
lots of
Not good person. Bad person. Bad
um
person.
he has indeed made his life happen. As I mentioned before we started, I did not at him on anything that I posted because fairly certain he would have come, and I don't need that kind of thing in my life right
I
now. I'm
mean, what
still
else is he doing right now?
you know what? Terrance Howard, for all of the things happening, like for most people, you'd be like, oh, he's done. He's done. Actually, after this article, you've been like, he's done. He retired sort of in 2019 like he said he would, but he's also directing something right now. He's directing and starring in something. His I don't know what he does or who he knows, but Terrance Howard continually gets work. Even after people are like he's difficult, he's still finding work. After Marvel drops him, still finding work. I don't know what he knows about people. I don't know.
But he knows something. He knows something about people.
I know people who, they sneeze the wrong way and they haven't worked in like 6 months. Terrance Howard's like, I created a math and I hit my ex-wife. So what's my next project?
Maybe 1 times 1 really is 2, and that's what we're actually missing.
Exactly.
Maybe what's happening is that, when 1 times 1 is 2, then you get a first look deal immediately, just immediately. That's what pops off.
I am the man is an enigma. I don't want to hang out with him, but I'm fairly like I feel like all of those memes that people post about like, just believe in yourself. The secret. He's doing it. He is indeed bending the fabric of the universe to his will. So it's working for Terrance. Maybe I should take some notes. I too will go out. That's what Terryology can do for you.
Terryology could do I mean, it seems like it could do a lot. It seems like it could potentially
Well, he
move
has
mountains.
followers. Like, there's no joke. He has 400 followers on that Instagram thing, which is 400 more than I would have thought. And
Yeah.
that means that there are like obviously probably like a good 50 of them are just like this is hilarious. But there's still people on there just like, yep, we're gonna do this,
Oh
and
yeah.
Terrance knows the way. This is what I'm teaching my children. They won't be able to make sure they've got the proper change when they go to the supermarket,
No.
but
No.
they're ready for the future.
They won't be able to put even amounts of things into containers. Like they won't be able to put the same amount of things in like a certain amount of containers. Like if somebody's like put like you've got like 7 things like and we need you to put like or you've got 8 things and you need to put like 2 of them in 4 containers, they're going to be like, that's wrong. That's wrong. It's actually I need 16 things in order to put 2 things in 4 containers, but otherwise.
He's like I said, I would love to count him out, but um, yeah. Most of it. We flew through because I was really nervous about time because we got short. But I don't know. It's my type A. It does that. It does that. It just flares up sometimes and it gets to me. But there's another quote I have from the article. The people that judge you don't matter. They're not real. Everything is just frequencies. And I think he really believes that. Like those people don't matter. You know, if you're getting into an argument with a couple who are in, on a plane with you, those people don't matter. You can hit them. They're just frequencies. Who cares?
Mhm.
He is the important thing. He's like the Don Draper. He's like Don Draper. It's real. He just rewrites his life. It's fascinating. Um, yeah, I don't want anything to do with him, but it's fascinating. Oh. We have I'm all about I'll answer any questions since I'm now the Terrance Howard expert.
What does it mean to be a free? What's it mean to be a frequency? What does it mean to be a frequency?
You know, I'm one. He obviously is never going to tell you exactly because Terrance is not really into like definitions. He's clearly like that guy who you're in a relationship with who's just like, girl, I don't really like labels. Just we're just frequencies. We're
We're
fine.
just maybe what he meant is that we're all dancer. Maybe that's what he's actually getting at. Maybe it's like there is nothing, we are nothing, we are dancer. Our signs are vital. Our hearts are pure.
There's still those people who are always like, oh, I'm vibrating at a high frequency. And I'm just like, I don't really know. I think that means that you're on top. I don't actually ever know what that means. I just nod a lot. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think it just means that you're doing well. I don't know.
I think that it means that you're like it's like you've got like a lot like you've got like a lot of energy. Like, and I think that energy can be good or bad. I don't think it's like always good energy. I know some people who think that they have good energy and they have very bad energy. So like
Are we naming names tonight? What's happening?
we're not naming
Oh.
no, we're not naming names tonight. But well, maybe the after hours show. Join me in a gutter for the after hours show where I just name names. To the tune of we didn't start the fire and I'm just naming names who think they have good energy, but they actually have bad energy.
I'll write them all down. Don't worry. Go back? No. No. Oh, on a higher plane. I don't know what it means to be like. I mean, wouldn't he also be frequency too? So does he matter? Is he real?
Maybe okay, wait. Okay, let me galaxy brain this. Okay,
Okay.
so frequency. So gravity isn't real, right? Okay,
Okay.
gravity is an effect. The cause of gravity is Terrance Howard. So Terrance Howard is a bunch of frequencies that have coalesced around the gravitational pull of Terrance Howard. But the
Hmm.
further away you get from Terrance Howard, the more the frequencies begin to like kind of like dissolve, right? And so we, as being very far away from Terrance Howard, are more frequency than say somebody who's very close to Terrance Howard just because of like proximity, which is why when you get further and further out into the universe, you experience heat death.
Okay, that makes sense.
But once we don't have a Terrance Howard, the question is there a new Terrance Howard,
Hmm.
or are we just all gone? I mean, like it's a real question.
I mean, 1 × 1 does equal 2, so I feel
Yeah.
like that all just
Oh, so that means there are two Terrance Howards. That's great. Okay. Great.
it's always
So
that
there's another one. We've
it's like
got
a sun. It's like everyone has this, like every planet has their own, it's like their own solar system has a sun. We all
yeah.
have our own Terrance Howard somewhere.
Oh, this actually does make a lot of sense. I think this explains how we got to 5 seasons of Empire very clearly. I think this explains how we got to Crash, because the Crash Terrance Howard is not my Terrance Howard.
Which one is your Terrance Howard then?
Hustle and Flow Terrance.
I feel like the Hustle and Flow Terrance Howard is probably the closest to actual Terrance Howard than anything else.
See, I think maybe the closest to actual Terrance Howard is, do you remember those promos for Empire where it's just like, who shot Lucius? And it was just like Terrance Howard being like, oh, shot. And like it was like it like flipped through like 8 people, and like of course it was like the white woman. Like it was like the great show there. That was a real time. I mean, like if that happened, like Tyler Perry can do whatever he wants because the Empire already happened. So I
I
mean,
know.
like it can't get if it gets crazier than that, then that's a feat. It's a real
I was
feat.
I'm gonna say I didn't make it past. I think I didn't make it past like the after the first season. I think into the second season, and then I was like, oh, this has gone off the rails even for me. and And I am all about everything in the kitchen sink, and it went too far for me. So
It went
yes,
very far. Very, very, very
Felicia
far.
Rashad was on. I just like to
Oh
point that out.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So if
That
Terrence
was
Howard doesn't exist, then he will also always exist. That makes sense.
yeah.
Yes. So, so we're close to being done, but I have to make sure that I do the things.
Mhm.
There are things because the last time I did a show, I forgot to do the things, and then someone else had to do it in the chat, and I felt a little guilty because I didn't do the things. So I even wrote the things down so I would not forget the things. Excuse me while I find the paper for the thing. First, before I forget, I am gonna put Terry's linchpins in the chat so that if you would like to go looking at Terry's linchpins, they're not a ton of there's, there's not a ton of things to look at, but the man does love him some IGTV and he loves to put some music underneath things.
It's the only way to engage.
It is marvelous. I feel like I should watch them right before I fall asleep because the music just all comes together. So there's that. Terry's linchpin, Terry linchpins. Terry, oh, I'm sorry, it should be Terry's linchpins, but there's also terryslinchpins.com.
Oh wow.
So which I feel like Jenna is making. Thank you. Oh, with an S, Terrys, but it's L-Y. I don't. Someone else must have had L-I, but it is actually Lynchpins. Because it's Terrance Howard, and that's how he plays. That's how he rolls.
Well, I think that I think Terry's Lynchpins is actually a pin store that's in Lynchburg, Virginia, run by a nice person named Terry who has just done really great things over the last several years. And I think that's where Terrence Howard got the idea actually is he walked in and he was like the time all this time he spends in Lynchburg, Virginia, and it's like, oh, actually this is a theory. I think
This is
that's what it is. Another Terrence Howard, yes. So there's so Terrence Terry Howard who lives in Lynchburg, Virginia, who is someone's Terrence Howard.
yeah.
Again, not ours, but someone's. But it's obviously probably really good Terrence Howard, if I had to
So
guess.
so is he actually in multiplicity? I just want you to know, Terrence Howard does not believe in the singularity. He does not believe in that at all. It is in his notes. He's very clear. He does not believe in singularity. There's, I don't know.
It's a part of the TCU, the Terry Cinematic Universe. It's
in that
the
universe, in that universe, he's still an Iron Man, and he is now Iron Man. Exactly. The Lynchlands.
no.
Oh, I see that. I see that Candace has already been to the site. So, all right. So now I'm gonna do the things. I'm gonna do the things because I don't want to. All right. First off, most importantly, an hour from now at 10 o'clock is big time with Ashley and Dara here. They have their topic tonight is burlesque, fat and sexy, and they have the Legend Fancy Feast will be on there. I think there's actually going to be a performance, so I would definitely come back to see that. Fancy Feast is awesome. On Sunday, there are two shows as well. Jenna, who is our producer, who I've been abusing for the past 2 hours with my random thoughts, and Vashti, who is currently our mod, are doing In It to Vin It, their show about Vin Diesel, and the topic this week at 7 o'clock is Pitch Black. So you have time to go and watch Pitch Black before you come see In It to Vin It at 7. At 5 o'clock, even though these are out of order because I looked at the wrong list instead of the right list. At 5 o'clock on Sunday is Dara's pop culture show, and this week is Viral Videos top 3 lists, which will be exciting because I enjoy viral videos a lot. You should follow us on all of the things. So there is Pop Culture Co-op on Instagram, on Twitter. I believe we're also on Facebook, but I don't go there because my grandmother would see the things that I do and be very ashamed of me. But if you do, And you can follow Johnny where? Where can they follow you, Johnny?
You can follow me on Instagram at Lloydstagram Get It, and I'm gonna type it. Be yeah,
Yes.
it's which it's great because as a person of two first name experience, I often have to deal with people thinking that Lloyd is my first name, and I just want to really mess with them.
Uh,
So this is a great way for me to do that. Um, yeah, that's probably the best place to find me.
I feel like this might be the first time I've heard it said out loud, and it sounds slightly dirty. I just want to put it out there, slightly dirty.
Well, it's Lloydstagram.
So
Get it? Like it's like the
oh, because you
joke.
say it
It's
like
the
that,
joke.
it's just like
Yeah,
it does, now it just makes me feel like I'm a dirty person, which I'm
no,
fine.
that's what I was trying to shame.
Oh, oh, you think I can be shamed? That's I have no shame. You can follow me at Karen Trinice, which as if everybody can spell that. Karen Trinice on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter, but nothing happens there. I just want you to know. You'll be
Nothing
just
good.
following.
Nothing good happens on Twitter.
Nothing good happens. Well, good things happen right now. So good things are happening lately. But you could follow me on Twitter. I'm just letting you know I only tweet when big things happen in the world because I don't care. Uh, and you can also follow Show and Tell on Instagram, Show and Tell PPC um, on Instagram. Thank you so much for typing that because I'm just like, no one knows how to spell Trinice. I don't know why I bothered. It's like, I'm just gonna say it as if as everybody knows, Trinice. That's a
Yeah.
very common name.
Oh yeah.
Actually, apparently, it's very common in Trinidad, as the
Oh,
security
that
guard
makes
once
sense.
told me. So, which makes sense, I guess. I think we are here. We are at the time. I want to make sure that we clear out on time so that Big Time has time to get where they need to get to. But this has been lovely. Thank you, Johnny.
Thanks so much for having me. This has been so fun.
Oh, oh, oh! I can't forget the big thing. The big thing. Um, the theme song. We have a
Yes.
theme song, and it was written by musical genius Aviamon, who donated it to me. So I definitely want to make sure that someone says, Aviamon, because Aviamon is a musical genius, and he gave this beautiful thing to me, and I want to make sure that it's said. So yes. So that now we can be done. Now that I've yes, you can hear it, and I've put his name in the chat there. Johnny, any last words?
I just hope you continue your exploration into math, and that you learn so much more.
I will. I hope that you will come back and talk to us about something that I know what you can talk to us about. We'll talk about it off screen.
Okay. Like, oh gosh.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We're out. Bye.